again. Welcome to the Creatures of the Night podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Wendy.
So, oh my God, I'm so excited I have to tell you this. You know, you guys, Wendy and I actually live in two different places. We do our podcast over Skype. We've been doing it this way since our podcast started a year and a half ago. I don't know, forever ago.
Feels like forever ago. Yeah.
But we do that because we do live in two different places. Wendy's in Arizona and I'm in New Hampshire. And it is today, May 2nd. And I'm so excited to announce that today is the first time I was able to come into my basement to podcast without having the heaters going for 4 hours prior to our podcast. It finally warmed up here today. It got to 67 degrees. It's been raining and cold all week. I've woken up every morning with this blasting headache and I've had sinus issues all week. It's just made working even worse. I mean, as much as I love working, now I have to work with this headache and all the sinus pressure and it's just been awful. So we wake up today and it was almost like Snow White. Like the birds were chirping and they're flying around outside the window and I don't know, there's some lady in a blue dress singing. No.
That's odd, but will she clean your house? She probably would.
Yes, with her 7 dwarfs.
Oh, wait, I was getting Cinderella and Snow White mixed up.
Oh, wait, shit, maybe I was too.
Well, no, both of them have birds singing to them.
Yeah, but whatever. You know, we're older, so if we get the Disney ladies confused, it's okay.
I mean, they're very similar when you think about it.
They are very similar. Somebody got really, either they were on a deadline and they had to write that other story really quickly. They just changed a few things, changed the hair color, and done. Put a witch in there. Oh, wait, there was a witch in the other one, too. I mean, same story.
There's not a witch in the other one.
Maleficent wasn't in Cinderella?
No, I think that's supposed to be more like Sleeping Beauty.
Jesus, there was another one. I can't. Just give me Mulan. That's the kind of princess that I can deal with.
Oh, that live action one that's coming out soon? That looks badass.
I haven't seen, well, I guess if it's not come out yet, then of course I haven't seen it. But back in the day, the cartoon version, the Disney version, was one of my favorites. When we worked at Party City, I was super excited to actually dress up as Mulan because I loved the movie. And I think that was actually one of the characters that I got to pick out and wear. But when you worked at Party City on Halloween time, they were just kind of like, all right, the most expensive costumes are this, 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 and this. So which one are you going to wear? I was the Raggedy Ann doll. And I loved it, but I also loved wearing the Mulan costume because it was cute. But anyways, I wasn't trying to get off on a tangent on Halloween costumes. I was just so excited that we're finally feeling spring. I know that's a different scenario for Wendy because Wendy's been texting me this week talking about how it's already in the friggin' hundreds.
Yep. Today was the first day. Well, this is only because I'm a cheap ass and I try to go as long as possible before we turn the air condition on. So after we podcasted last weekend, that was it. Everybody in the house had had enough of it. We turned it on. So it's been on all week. Today, we turned it off so that we can podcast. So I can't wait to hear the uproar in my house of don't do this to us, Mom.
It's so bad. So there's at different seasons, one of us is extremely uncomfortable while we're podcasting. It's not fair. It's so not fair.
It is. It's kind of a trade-off, though. I mean, I've been putting you through torture for the last, 3 months almost, down in that basement, freezing to death. And now it's my time to sweat.
God, it just sucks. But this is what we do to bring you quality entertainment. We torture ourselves every weekend, almost, so that we can dig up stories of the supernatural, the paranormal, and talk about them for an hour, hour and a half, whatever, and hope that you guys enjoy what we're doing and respond. I do get sometimes some really neat comments on some of the Instagram posts. Some other people who have also talked about the same subjects who want to chime in, which is always fun. I like to see, especially on the SS Orang Medan, that was the story of Wendy's from the week before, and a lot of people kind of chimed in. What was that game from back in the day? Choose your ending.
Choose your own adventure.
Choose your own adventure. So I got a variety of answers, but it's fun, it's entertaining, and above all, we still get to research the paranormal while we're so many miles apart. So this is kind of like our little fun time, and I hope that you enjoy it, and that's why you're coming back for more.
That's why we keep doing it.
Yeah. So anyways, aside from it being springtime in New England and that I've been trapped in my house all week, it seems like I don't really have much else new to report.
I have absolutely nothing for you on this end. So. I've been working a lot more. My hours have been shit, but it left me kind of drained. So I didn't get into anything really at home. I think I heard that Portals to Hell has started back, but I haven't gotten to check it out. I mean, I feel like I'm going to quickly get behind on all that stuff.
I did catch a Portals to Hell episode the other night, and it was a old Portals to Hell episode. It was not a new one, but it was new to me because I hadn't seen it before. So, I mean, it was interesting. I like the dynamic. And the funny thing is that there was an episode that came on afterwards. It's Jack Osborne and his, his folks. Yeah. They're, trying to be silly, trying to be weird. I guess trying to be. I guess they're just an odd, group of people, whatever. But they're sitting there and like they don't even know what Jack Osborne does. They're like, you do what? And you go where? And I'm like, really? Like they produce the show, don't they? They don't know anything about it. Okay. But they get Katrina on the phone and Katrina says hi to them and she starts talking. And then they kind of show clips of some of the other places Katrina's been. And it jumps to a clip from when she was on Paranormal Lockdown. I was like, oh, that's funny. Look, they didn't show any clips with Nick in it. How funny. And my husband's sitting right there and he's like, I forgot all about Paranormal Lockdown. I'm like, I think lots of people want you to forget all about Paranormal Lockdown, but it happened. It was good.
It was good. That's so unfair. And I think somewhere they are airing their episodes that they did for British TV.
In the UK, yeah.
Yeah, but you can get it now like on Hulu or something. That's probably wrong, but it's somewhere. I want to watch them. Yeah. Because I can't imagine the locations that they get to go over there.
I know. I bet those were pretty awesome. But Portals to Hell, I mean, I like that show. My son walks through as they're talking about it, and he's like, that's a stupid name for a show. I'm like, thank you. I'll write to them and let them know. Dinner's in the kitchen,
Nobody asked you.
Yeah. But my family just takes so much offense to just the most random things, like the name of a show. It's like, I can't help that it's called that. I just can't.
They just don't get it and they're not into it. And that's why it's so silly that each week, guys, you don't know this, but when we're trying to decide on a title for the show, I give Chris 10 options and she narrows it down to a few. And then I can't really decide. I made the list. So I send it out to my kids and ask them. They know nothing about what the story's about. Right. They could not care less about what we're doing.
They usually come up with pretty good titles, I think.
I mean, they take what first sounds interesting or funny to them. And I think that's, why we go with it, because that's what we want everybody else to kind of get from it.
But we are familiar with the content. And I think it makes more sense to have someone who's not familiar with the content to kind of pick it out.
Yeah, it is kind of funny. It's the only time they're ever involved with this podcast.
But we're trying to make editors out of them.
Oh, fuck yeah. I kept asking my oldest this week because I was so busy. Write my podcast for me, please. I promise I'll read whatever you write. I don't care. He wouldn't do it.
No, kids these days. My God. Well, anyways, I've got a super creepy place to tell you about today if you're ready to hear a story.
What?
Super creepy.
That's
not what I'm here for. Yes, indeed. I am taking you all into a very strange forest in none other than Transylvania to give you the story on a location so freaking weird, it's often referred to as the Bermuda Triangle of Romania.
I am so excited.
Well, I knew that you would be excited. However, I think you'd be more excited if I was doing Dracula's Castle, but I decided to not do Dracula's Castle, so I'm sorry. I hope that doesn't take you down from a 10 to a 5. Damn it.
No, I'm excited for you to be in the area. I have a huge respect for these people, and anything they say is going on, I believe them. So tell me what's happening in their woods, because it's
good.
Really happening, I'm sure.
It is really happening here. It is some wild shit. So strap in, because this one is going to be a wild ride. So west of the city of Cluj lays the 729-acre forest of Hoia Baciu. For years, this location has been used by many as a way to escape the city and take time to just wander through the nature. Many come here hiking, camping, picnicking, and most notably to take pictures of the really unique trees that have grown in very odd directions in the woods. They seem to want to kind of bend and spiral rather than growing straight up, as most trees tend to do. Some trees even display odd burn marks or mysteriously have charred trunks. Even weirder is that these trees, they turn in a clockwise direction. Scientists have been to the forest to examine the tree growth patterns, but they've been unable to figure out why the trees grow in such an erratic fashion. And I am going to send you a picture so you can see this.
Excellent. Now, this seems extreme. It sounds so simple. A tree grows funny. Ha ha ha. Who cares? I'm sure there's some scientific element involved, that would explain it. And then scientists, here they are saying, no, we don't have any idea. That's weird.
It is weird. So the picture that I just sent Wendy is of a cluster of these trees all doing a weird bend, like all at the same time. Like they all just decided to do the dip or some kind of a dance. If you go through the forest, there are trees that aren't in these large clusters. They're just kind of sporadic, spiraling, as if somebody took them and just wrapped them around their finger. But then you'll come to these clusters in the woods where it's a whole group of trees all doing something bananas. And yes, like Wendy mentioned, it is kind of strange that the scientists are like, yeah, I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense.
And this, what you sent me, this is fucking weird. I mean, why? Why so many in a group are growing the exact same way? And it's so odd.
It is so odd. I like this picture especially because it does have a whole group of them. Now, if you're just wandering through the forest and you see one tree doing something silly, well, that's one cool tree doing something silly. When you see a whole gaggle of them, that's like, get me the fuck out of this forest, man. Something bad's about to happen. So yeah, I really like that picture. In recent years, a bike path was installed for those wishing to bike amongst the beautiful yet strange vegetation. But for any crazy thrill seekers out there who want more than to just bike around some odd trees, well, there's now a place where you can play paintball.
Oh, I did not think that's what you were going to say.
No. But if paintball isn't your cup of tea, there's even an archery range, and hopefully not in the same area as the paintball park.
It got extreme real quick.
And for the history buffs, the soil throughout Batu Forest holds archaeological evidence of a settlement which dates back to the Neolithic period. It is believed to have been established around 65,000 BC, making it the oldest settlement from that time period to be found in Romania. So, much like a Disney cruise ship, Hoya Batu Forest has a little something for everyone. And I didn't even realize that I said that later on when we were talking about Disney princesses at the beginning. The forest is said to be one of the most active areas in the world in terms of paranormal phenomenon. So definitely keep this in mind when traveling to Transylvania, because even though Dracula's castle is super badass, this is where all the action is. These woods are thought to be haunted by the spirits of peasants who were murdered there a very long time ago. People have reported being scratched when there was no way they could have been, because the scratches appear fresh on the skin underneath clothing.
Ooh.
Yeah. Explorers of the forest have also reported seeing strange figures walking among those creepy trees, and mysterious faces or orbs often make their appearance in photographs. While many people out there share our opinion in orbs, just take this into consideration that sometimes people are also reporting seeing these mysterious floating shapes like orbs or faces or even lights with their own eyeballs.
Yeah, that's something different.
Yeah, that is something different.
Just like when we were in Birdcage and I saw that one move towards
hopping
me. Yeah, that's not a dust particle bouncing at me that I'm seeing with these bad eyes. No,
right.
It's something else.
Exactly how I feel. But you still have to also know that when you take a picture, you have to look at it, from both points of view. If you are outside kicking up dust and you take a picture and it does look like, a dust particle, then it's possibly a dust particle. If you get something else that comes along with it, which, by the way, I do have another picture I wasn't going to share with you, but since I'm talking about it, let me send this one to you. This is one that was captured, and I think that they were just looking at the orbs originally when some other kind of weird anomaly appeared. They call it an ectoplasm.
Oh, yeah, that is something.
That is something. Yeah, that's a weird something.
Yeah.
We don't know what it is, but definitely an interesting picture. I like how some of these pictures that I have for you, too, have titles. You see that? Picture of what appears to be orbs and possibly ectoplasm. Cool. I don't have to do any explanation. It's done.
If they'd only put circles around it, then it'd be all inclusive.
Right? Do the work for us. We just sit here and create the entertainment.
Yeah, the only thing I could think is like, a spider web. Their light, their flash caught a spider web that's on that tree and could have made that. But that is interesting.
It's a weird picture. It could be a variety of things. Again, it's a picture of something that was taken by somebody else, not from us. So we don't know the circumstances. We don't know if, someone had just lit out their cigarette. I mean, I don't know. It's a weird stripy thing that kind of appears against a tree. It could be just a reflection of a spider web, but I don't know. I don't have any other background on it. Just an interesting shot. Something that you might look out and catch if you visit the Hoia Bacha Forest. Also, many people report hearing and even recording the sounds of women talking or giggling in the woods when it's really quiet. And that's just extra creepy.
I was about to say, that's nice. I mean, that's better than the scratching. And then you're like, creepy.
It is better than the scratching, that's for sure. Yeah, you could just hear someone giggling out there having a good time. Maybe they're just out there camping. Who knows? It is a forest, or it could just be paranormal. People visiting the forest say that they felt as though they were being watched or followed while being in the forest, and some offered proof by saying they've even seen what appears to be a pair of glowing green eyes that appear to be watching them. And I've seen this report a lot of glowing lights in the forest. Not so many times has it been said glowing green eyes. So I don't know how common that sighting really is, but seeing lights in the forest is a heavy phenomenon here. So what the heck is going on here anyways? And I don't know, but check out this really bizarre story. Baki, which is the Romanian word for sheep herder, once was out minding his own business, guiding a flock of sheep out into the forest. Well, this dude and his sheep basically evaporated because they never returned. Despite an immense search for the missing herder and his flock of sheep, they were never seen again. And did I say this was 200 sheep?
Shit.
They got them all. They're gone. It was as if they all just suddenly were sucked right into the abyss. The area quickly gained notoriety as a place from which no one returned, and now the total of missing persons is over 1,000. All are people who have gone into the forest and simply vanished without a trace. But it gets weirder. There are a few rare cases where the missing persons have been recovered. One such case involved a disappearance of a 5-year-old girl who reappeared 5 years later and was just found aimlessly wandering in the forest. So the girl, no time had passed, and she was wearing the exact same clothes she had been wearing 5 years previously. To add to the strangeness, her clothes were found to be in a remarkably good condition for someone who had just been out wandering the wilderness for 5 years. And upon questioning her about what had happened, she had absolutely no memory of where she had been or what had even happened. 5 other people who vanished into the forest have also turned up later. Only in their cases, they were not found alive. Their bodies were found and said to have had no signs of trauma, so the cause of death, mystery? We don't know.
Okay, so back to the little girl real quick. She was wearing the same clothes, right? But she's 5 years older, so they wouldn't necessarily fit her anymore.
No, it's not like that at all. They find her 5 years later, but she hasn't aged at all. Sorry, I didn't make that clear.
No. That's kind of what I meant to ask you. Sorry,
yeah.
I just didn't phrase my question right. Is she 5 years older? Because then her clothes wouldn't fit and whatnot.
Yeah.
And did they just not discuss that? So it was like time travel, I guess. She's just gone, and then she comes back, but no time has passed, and she's the same person.
Right. Yeah, Thanos. They unsnap the finger. I did some extra research hoping to find more on this little girl. I was dying to find a picture because that would have just been awesome. Like, here's the proof. Here's the 5-year-old girl after we found her. Unfortunately, the first return for looking for girls in the Hoia Bacha Forest was actually Amy from Amy's Crypt. And another image was of Nancy from Stranger Things. So needless to say, I was not able to find any pictures of any little girls that didn't age while being in the forest.
Okay. So, could be fictional, an urban legend that got passed around. Could be someone that just did not want to put their face out there because they don't want to be bothered by their experience, especially if they don't remember any of it.
Right. I'm sure if this is a legit case that the parents got involved immediately and were like, fuck off, give me my kid back. I've been without her for 5 years. Go away. They don't want to pursue it. They got their child back after being gone for so many years. I would guess, right? That's probably why there's no more information. I don't know.
Right. Also, I mean, if she's the only one that's made it out alive and all these other people have disappeared, then the families of all those other disappeared people are going to, I would imagine, harass the shit out of her.
Probably so.
How'd you escape? What is special about you? Or are you even real? Are you a fairy? Or it's like, is she some kind of like changeling type situation that took over her body?
Well, shit, now I want to research the little girl even more because I feel now my efforts weren't that good. If she's a possible changeling, I've got to know now.
I just mean, like, when you're desperate for answers for what happened to your own family member, and the people in that area do believe in a lot of what other people would see as urban myths and lores, then their minds could wander there. Yeah. And then they might accuse her of these things. So it's best for her to kind of stay out of it. I'm not saying that any of those stories came up. I'm just saying I'm just as crazy that kind of stuff would pop in my head.
Well, I like it, but I do kind of agree with your train of thought. I mean, clearly there's 1,000 people plus that have gone missing in this forest. So other people's families would want their families to return. How come you got yours back, but I didn't get mine? So yeah, that makes sense. That's why she probably isn't on Google somewhere where I can find her.
Right.
Well, as creepy as all of this is, it's not everything the mysterious Hoia Baciu Forest has to offer. Locals claim to have felt that there's an otherworldly explanation for the strange activity there. Some believe that somewhere in the forest is a portal that connects our world to another world, which would explain the disappearances over the years and the odd behavioral changes in people who go into the woods. Things like confusion, paranoia, sudden feeling of illness, and sudden rashes that mysteriously appear.
I mean, that could be some kind of poison ivy, right?
I know, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of shit in the woods that I'm allergic to, so. Electronic devices also malfunction or refuse to work at all, while in certain parts of the woods, and happens to be a common occurrence in an area known as the Dead Zone, or what many have recently deemed the real Upside Down world, which is why I was able to find pictures of Nancy from Stranger Things.
Okay. That makes sense now. They're comparing the two. Yeah, no, I totally believe it. There's some kind of portal out there. Now, look, there's a dead zone in a lot of forests. We've all been camping before.
You're talking about wireless dead zones?
Yeah, I mean, it's traumatic to be without your Wi-Fi or your cellular signal, but, it's not the end of the world. Let's not go crazy. But, I mean, people completely disappearing in 200 sheep. This is weird. I'm
sorry, I'm choking because I wrote this and I didn't even make that fucking comparison. It's so simple and it's beautiful, but that's not what this dead zone is. This is something different. This is actually what they call the dead zone. It's an almost perfect circle, barren area in the middle of the forest where nothing grows.
Okay.
But that's, like I said, I wrote this. I didn't even make the comparison.
Well, I bet your cell phones don't work there either.
They do have a hard time working there too. This is true. Many really, really weird things happen there, which include, but is not limited to, everything from the voices, the giggling that I mentioned earlier, scratches, seeing strange balls of light in the forest, and UFOs!
Of course!
Of course! So, Wendy, let me just send you quickly for reference a picture of this strange place in the woods. So the one that I'm sending you first doesn't tell you anything. You're going to hate me for sending you that. I don't see the other one, though, so I have to look for it. In the meantime, that's a Google Earth image. Oh, here we go. This is the one I want to send you. Of the little circle in the middle of the forest.
Okay. Well, that does. It shows this very lush vegetation all over the place.
Okay,
and then
good.
This very clear dead spot. Now, there is another giant dead spot as well.
Yeah, on the other side, right, it's which I would
much bigger as well. I don't know what that is.
I'm assuming that must be a lake since nobody talks about that.
A lake or some kind of, I don't know if they're hills or rocks or something,
Yeah.
Could be a rock formation.
Could be.
Who knows?
Could be a large alien grave.
We could make up stories all day about it. Yeah, so this is a crop circle, basically, but in a Romanian forest. It's
right.
A perfect fucking circle.
So there you go. There is the perfect circle dead zone, which nothing grows but grass. Grass doesn't seem to have a problem there, but it doesn't grow up. Like, that's as tall as it gets. Nobody's out there mowing it. It's just...
all those invisible sheep are eating it. You just can't see them.
Why do you solve it?
Because they're in the other existence.
Yes!
It's the upside down, but they're eating the grass in this current world.
I don't even need to continue.
I should write a book.
So let me tell you a little bit more about that. In 1968, the forest gained a reputation as a UFO hotspot when a biologist by the name of Alexandru Sift was actually in the forest studying its many strange anomalies, basically the trees. And he's snapping away a series of pictures when all of a sudden he sees something flying over the meadow. So he switches from down to up and starts snapping away, right? And he apparently takes a ton of pictures that are incredibly clear of, I don't know, a UFO, I guess. I don't really know. They seem to say that they are UFO pictures, but I wasn't able to find any. They said that his photographic evidence was so substantial that it's kind of, brought about the theory that there are aliens in Romania. But when Sift passed away in 1993, he became more of the mystery of this forest as well, because when he died, most of these photographs went missing along with him. I don't know why. I don't know if somebody is trying to keep them secret, trying to keep them just for them. Maybe they're going to come out with a book at one point in time. I did see some pictures on the internet, but none of them accredited Alexandru Sift. So I couldn't say that those were indefinitely his pictures.
Weird. Okay.
It is weird. It is weird.
Like, why would somebody take those?
Right. Why can't I find them? If his pictures were supposed to be like
the evidence.
The whole trail, right.
Yeah.
Then why can't we see them? Where did they go?
Maybe they were really dog shit and they just didn't want to mess up his memory.
They didn't want to hurt his feelings?
Yeah.
These aren't really that good. Just hide them. Don't let anybody else know.
Grandson's going through his stuff and it's like, wow, he really was crazy. That's obviously a bird. I mean.
See, I think my next story I'm just going to run by you before I even go. Because it makes so much sense just talking it out and talking through it.
That's why we do this, just working through these things.
Well, so while I wasn't able to find any of Alexandru Sift's amazing pictures, I was able to find somebody else's. And these come from a gentleman by the name of Emile Barnier. I think, Barnier. He's a military technician. He just happened to be out in the forest with a couple of his friends and his girlfriend one sunny August afternoon in 1968 when suddenly his girlfriend told him that she saw something weird. So she called him to come over. He comes over and looks, and he sees a shining silver disc in the sky. Luckily, this man had his camera on him, and before the object bolted away, he was able to capture a couple of good pictures, quote-unquote good pictures. Now, I have one of those pictures that I'm going to send to you. You didn't see any of Alexandru Sift's pictures, but you had a pretty good idea of what maybe happened to them. So maybe somebody should have done the same thing for Emile.
Oh, I hate that you say that. I was getting so excited. I was like, oh, I love UFO photos.
It's such a weird picture. So it's on its way to you. You should get it momentarily. Do, 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 do.
Oh, why is it black and white? It's 1968.
Okay, so even though the picture does look bad, it was published in the local papers, and he was hit, obviously, with immediate criticism. Obviously, we looked at that picture and we're like, yeah. But investigators looked into all possible scenarios, weather balloons, blimps, or anything that could possibly have been in the sky or the area on that day, and there was nothing found that could explain the pictures. The photo negatives were also examined, and it was determined that Barnier sorry if I'm saying his name wrong, it was determined that he did not alter the images. There was absolutely no evidence of tampering. So it's a legit picture.
Well, that is impressive then. I don't know why he seems to not have that great of a camera, but I don't know. I didn't live back in that time. Maybe this is all that they had. I wouldn't think that this is a weather balloon, and I wouldn't think that this was a bird. It looks like a ring in the sky,
Yes.
I don't know if just the way that it was taken, that the center of it is kind of like a lighter color, or if it was actually hollow, and this is like, a crescent moon shaped or a ring shaped ship. That's interesting if it is. But there also seems to look like a little face in the middle of it, like a little fat kid's face.
It does look like a little
you see tiny little dots.
Yes, actually, that is what it is. It's a little fat kid who's looking down at you. You know what? It does kind of look like one of those stacking doll faces, right? Like
a little brushing doll, or a Cabbage Patch Kid. I mean, but it definitely doesn't look like anything that you would expect to see in the sky. So I'm with him. This is odd.
It is.
It should go in the paper.
It did. It actually went into books. They deemed it to be a legit photograph. He didn't alter it in any way. So it went on to be basically the reason for the UFO hype because of the other pictures from the other guy that went mysteriously missing. So this was the next best thing. This is what they had to hold on to. And like I said, he took several pictures, but for whatever reason, this was the only one I can find on the internet. So I don't know if I have to buy the book to get the other pictures, but hey, I got this one. And one of the most recent high-profile UFO sightings to come to Hoia Baciu Forest occurred in 2002 when two residents on the top floor of an apartment complex in the adjacent city of Cluj managed to capture 27 seconds of a footage of a bright cigar-shaped object around 50 meters in length hovering over the forest. The UFO reportedly slowly made its way across the sky before disappearing into a thick cloud cover. UFO activity in the forest is so intense that alien abduction has been offered as a possible reason for the many missing persons and cases of lost time reported from the area. Despite all these reports, the location's spooky reputation isn't enough to put tourists off. Some choose to walk around the infamous forest by themselves, while others feels more reassured being on a tour. And there are a variety of different tours to take at Hoia Baciu, with some of the more promising tours focusing on the ghostly legends associated with the region. And I also found tons of amazing reviews on TripAdvisor, so it seems you really can't go wrong if you decide to just go that route. And even though I've never been on a tour in the Hoia Baciu Forest, I feel pretty confident recommending Alex as your tour guide. This dude's getting some serious reviews. These reviews were like people were so excited about the trip through the forest that they couldn't stop talking about the forest and Alex. Like it was like this, plus Alex and this and this. You know, it was just they're going all over the moon about this guy. So if you go, make sure you tell Alex that you heard about his sweet shenanigans and try and use the promo code CREATURES. Maybe Alex will give you the hookup. Maybe.
Until he finds out we just made that up.
Yeah, promo code CREATURES. Now you can't have 10%. I did tell you he's all about shenanigans. Don't listen to him. Just keep on with it. So among those who have visited this location to investigate it and have returned to tell their tale are Ghost Adventures and Amy's Crypt, obviously, because I just mentioned that. But why I'm even telling you about this seriously fascinating place is because of a show I watched many moons ago, and when I tried to recall the details from my memory, I was a little off. So I went back and rewatched it and got my facts together so that I could tell you all about the amazing evidence captured on Destination Truth Season 3, Episode 1, which is freaking from 2009.
Shit.
I know. That's why I was like, well, no wonder I couldn't remember. So I have to tell you now, going back to the picture of the UFO that we were just discussing, when Josh Gates saw that picture, he says it looks like the Monopoly hat.
Okay. I don't agree, but...
You don't think so?
No.
I thought that was funny. So the team from Destination Truth, which consists of about 7 people, all fly to Romania to investigate these amazing claims, which I already told you all about. When they first arrive, they rent a vehicle which was way too small for the whole crew. So then they decide that the best thing would be to find a plane that can take them over the mysterious clearing in the forest. Well, that plan backfires because when they're in the air, the roof of the plane just peels right off.
No. What?
Just like butter. It's gone. So they land safely. Nobody got hurt. Except for that plane. It's gone.
They probably duct taped that shit right back on.
I think it was duct taped when they got there. Oh, it was so bad. Like when they saw it too, they're like, is this the only plane around? Yeah, this is it. So taking to the forest now on 4-wheelers, they find the spot to set up camp and they set out trap cameras all over the place. This is sort of their, well, it was their technique back in the Destination Truth days. They'd find the area spread out and set up like a perimeter. So that's what they did with these trap cameras. Just if anything was out there, they'd have extra footage of it if they weren't able to do it themselves. So what they do is after they set up the trap cameras, they head out in 2 separate teams. Both teams visually see strange lights emanating through the twisted trees. Some of the lights are moving around, though they never seem to like move away. And then after watching them for a time period, the lights just disappear. They did catch the lights on the trap cameras, and they look exactly like I described them, like little lights in the trees. They end up writing this evidence off, though, since they were outdoors, and it could have just been people far off in the distance, right?
But when they hear them or something, plus you walk to the perimeter, you don't know where the closest campground is. I mean, Granted, people could just be out there exploring in the middle of the night the same as them. But Ghost Adventures saw those same lights. I don't remember them catching it on camera, though, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, so there's that. There could be people out there, but it's also a forest, so there are noises heard all night long, and it could be deer, and it could be the Blair Witch. There's just so many different
Could be
possibilities.
vampires, you know?
It could be vampires.
So many possibilities.
They're endless. So I think that they felt it was best to just write that evidence off because they were outdoors and there were other possibilities. And, Destination Truth, they're really not ghost hunters. They're not paranormal investigators. They're out there just searching weird shit out, So that was their best bet. One of the investigators on the team, at this time, it's JL. They switch up investigators from time to time. And at this point in time, it's JL. She's on one of the groups and she starts to take pictures, like right after they hear noises. So she's like, okay, I'm going to pull my camera out and see if I can get something. She does take a picture of something that has a bunch of orbs in it. She gets super excited. They go back to base camp. This picture ends up getting written off as just being dust. So I know so far nothing paranormal yet, but hang in there with me. It gets so much better. So next, the team finally finds the clearing or the dead zone in the forest, and using a tri-field meter, they received unexplainable high readings. While the meter continues to go bananas, they take a few soil samples so that they could take back and have tested. And they get out of the dead zone after hearing some weird things, but they end up leaving it so that they could basically come back and set up for like an isolation session. And if you've never seen the show before or know what I'm talking about, their isolation sessions are where one of the team members go into wherever it is, sit by themselves for 30 minutes and just try to contact whatever's supposed to be there, just by themselves, all alone. And in saying that, they still have all of their cameras on them, so people can watch them from afar. So they're alone, but they're never not being watched. So Josh goes into the clearing first, and he starts hearing some strange noises. Sounds like people are in the woods around him. He radios to base and asks if they see anyone or anything around him in the forest, which they don't. He starts using his FLIR, which is a thermal imaging camera, to pan around the forest in the dark. But still, he sees absolutely nothing. And all of a sudden, the base camp radios into Josh because they are seeing these lights in the trees directly behind him. It's like, oh, hello there. What are you doing? So they're telling Josh, he doesn't really seem like very calm to be there anyways. He's kind of startled. So he tries to shift and turn around suddenly to see it. And there's no lights behind him anymore. He doesn't see it. He doesn't see it on the FLIR. And base camp is like, yeah, they're gone. So I think he was getting a little creeped out at the time.
The woods at night are just creepy to begin with. There's just too many spots for something to jump out at you. And then now you have to put aliens on top of that shit? I mean, he was almost abducted, probably.
Yeah, right? That's probably what was going on. So I don't know if he rushed his time or if time was actually up for him, but he was like, okay, good, I'm done. Let's go. And he just got out of there. So on to our next test subject, who is also our last. I guess Josh warmed the forest up because Evan, who is the cameraman, goes in next. And that's when shit gets real. So Evan gets in and immediately starts hearing weird, voices. Again, to him, it sounds like women's voices. He says he felt the voices like they were encircling him. And then a couple seconds later, Evan completely lifts off screen and disappears. And I have pictures for you.
Oh, is this when I was telling about the Banshee? This is the Destination Truth episode that you were thinking of.
This is definitely the one that I was thinking of. And this is why I had to revisit it because I was like, what was that damn episode? Anyways, this is it. So I have a series of pictures to send you so that you can see what this man looks like just hanging out in the middle of the forest doing his thing. So that should be Evan sitting in the woods in night vision.
Okay.
And then here is Evan getting sucked into the abyss.
Oh, that is interesting.
You see him as if he's getting pulled, right? To me, it looks like his arm and his head just go straight up.
Yeah.
And then finally, the fifth picture isn't like when he's just completely vanished. There's like a wasp of smoke or something that seems to be there instead of Evan.
That is nuts. But then he reappears, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But somewhere else.
That is insane.
I know. It's insane to see it. 2009, I'm sitting on the couch, probably having a few glasses of wine, just thinking it's my Friday night Destination Truth episode. I did not expect to see that man just get lifted off into the air. That was the scariest thing I'd ever seen on Destination Truth. And I mean, and some of their episodes were pretty scary anyways, but that one was very scary.
It's like the most extreme claim from the location. You think, yeah, but that's not going to happen. That's probably not even true. And then you're the victim. What the fuck?
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be like that poor Evan. We gotta go. Sorry.
Right. And that's exactly what happened. They charge in after him because they're like, what the fuck just happened? Evan's gone. So they charge in to go look for him, which they were able to find him, but he wasn't in the same spot he was when they were filming him. He had gained a little distance. He was on the opposite end of that circle. So they get to Evan, who is super confused. He says he was just sitting there when he felt this massive rush come down and then push him. And the next thing he knew, he was back with all of them and was super itchy. And now, of course, when I'm telling you the story, I'm super pumped and I'm super excited to be telling you this. But if you watch this man, like, trying to explain to you what happened, he is stunned. He is like, I don't know. There was just a rush of wind or something, you know, and he just whoosh, he just got lifted. But and yeah, he was itchy. He says he was super, super itchy. So then he decides to kind of push up his sleeve, which he's wearing like a long jacket. It almost looks like, you know, he might have to unbutton his sleeve to push it up. And when he pushes up his sleeve, there are these deep like claw gashes on his arm. And I have another picture for you of that, but it isn't the best quality. So do you want to see it?
Yes, of course.
All right.
So I wonder if this goes back to the rash idea or the scratches idea, that they think it's like ghost peasants scratching them, but he's got scratches. So maybe it's alien abduction.
What's really weird about that is I have read other cases of itchy feeling after being in the presence of the paranormal. I don't know why this has come up before. In my mind, like, again, here I am trying to tell you something from my memory, like when I was trying to tell you about this whole situation before, so I could completely be fucking it up. But it seems like I've heard this before where there was like a deep itch that you couldn't like fully scratch, which is weird for Evan to have said that he was super itchy, because when he finally rolled up his sleeve, he did have actually like a gash. So here he comes finally as the scratch.
These are Evan's arms?
Yeah, that's his hairy arm.
It looks like a barren grassland. So now I understand why you didn't really want to share these photos with me.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I realized after I took the capture and was looking at it later that it's a tough one to explain. I'll have to try and go back and see if I can get one of like the whole arm. So you see the arm and then the cut, not just this. Maybe another Google Earth image.
But I believe him. I mean, he said he had scratches on his arms and everybody witnessed it and he's all tingly.
Yeah, he's very itchy and he's extremely shook up. And, you know, so for Josh, he's like, okay, well, we're still filming a show here, so let's just, I guess, try to move on. He says basically at this point, anybody else that's looking to do any investigating tonight is on a voluntary basis because the shit really seems to be getting real. And then at that moment, their medic, Rex, starts to get sick and he's off camera puking. And Josh runs over to like, you know, what the hell's happening? Are you okay? And Rex is like, I don't feel good. I have no idea why this just came over me. Which is weird because another one of the sensations, along with sudden rashes and sudden scratches, nausea is another one of the things that tends to happen in this area. So these guys, they just throw in the towel and peace the fuck out because they're having too much fun. This is too much for them.
Yeah, well, when dude disappeared and reappeared, that was enough for me. I was like, well, we got it. That's the golden ticket right there. Get your shit. Let's go.
God, he showed back up. Like, what would have happened if, like, Evan never showed back up? Destination Truth would have ended a long time ago.
I was going to say they would have got an Emmy or something. I mean, like, that's pretty fucking impressive.
It is, like I said, it was one of the scariest things I'd ever seen on TV. And you could tell just from watching him that he was pretty fucking shook up about it. So
I'm sure, because all of a sudden, all the claims seem very, very real, and the possibilities are real, and the fact that he got to return is amazing.
Yeah, and he wasn't any older when he returned either. How about that?
They didn't have to wait 5 years for it. It's TV magic. It happened so quickly.
Happened so quickly. Right. We don't actually know how long it took them to find him. Again, but it wasn't 5 years later. So they fly back to the U.S. and they end up taking soil samples to some smart guy. And he's unable to find any anomalies in the samples they brought him, and he just says it looks like some regular old dirt. I mean, he says it in a more scientific manner, but you know what I'm saying.
Same thing. Got it.
Same thing. Next up, Josh Gates visit Jason Hawes and Grant Wilson from the Ghost Hunters, because like I said before, this was 2009, and back then that's who Josh Gates was hanging out with. So they were blown away by the cameraman's disappearance. Like mouth wide open catching flies style. Like,
well, of course they are. They don't ever catch shit on TV.
This was the best thing they had ever seen in their entire lives.
They were like, wait, you mean we were supposed to be recording the evidence, not just watching it ourselves and the camera watching us watch it?
Yeah.
Oh, I got it.
You know, that's when they should have realized that's what we've been doing wrong. Damn it. You know, honestly, but back in the day, I told you that before, I was a huge Ghost Hunters fan. I loved them. So whenever I got to see, you know, my two worlds collide, Josh Gates and then the two guys from Ghost Hunters appear, I was just even more enthralled. I'm like, yay, you're bringing in the pros. Of course, back in 2009, the guy sitting on the couch, not really filming the evidence, those were the guys in my mind as the pros. That's right.
Well, you know what? Honestly, they do conduct themselves like true paranormal investigators. They researched the location and they put the right equipment out, and they kept a skeptical, like, what am I trying to say?
They did. They had a method that they wanted to make sure that they were proving or disproving. They weren't always going in with everything as a paranormal. They're like, knocking on the pipes. That could just be your pipes. We do work for Roto-Rooter too, you know?
Yeah, they tested everything out to see if, you know, the legitimacy of the claims, or if it could be something else that a homeowner just hadn't thought of. So they really did have a good method. It was just their cinematography, basically.
Yeah.
They just didn't get that worked out. The cameraman was told to watch them, just like they are on Kindred Spirits. But on Kindred Spirits now they have their own cameras as well.
Right.
So back in the day, I guess they didn't have the budget for their own cameras. They only had that one cameraman. And he was, hey, I was told to film you guys.
You know what? That is so true. Now, come to think of it, the idea of having like a point of view method didn't come in until maybe a year after that. And I think Ghost Hunters were already kind of in the works of canceling. So they kind of missed out on that brilliant idea to do a point of view method, right? Or it's like point and shoot instead of just shoot us.
But I think it's different now and everything. So, you know, I knock on them a lot, but they weren't bad and their system was good. It's just the way that it was all filmed was a little like, you're telling me something's happening down the hallway, but could I see it, please?
Can I see it? Yeah. Your reaction is great. Now let's see what's actually happening. I know, I knock on them all the time too, but I truly loved them. I've said that, you know, before. They were my first true idea of what a paranormal show was all about, was just these guys going into these haunted locations and just sort of determining whether or not it was a legit haunting. And then, you know, later on, Ghost Adventures came around and I was like, oh, look, they're actually like trying to show you the evidence here. Let's not wait till the reveal at the end of the night. They're actually trying to show you, you know, while it's going. So it's two totally different methods. And again, I'm not saying one is right, one is wrong. It's just that things have changed over the years. Things have gotten better. You know, people have come up with better ideas over the years, and maybe they'll do a better job now, because I know they both have their own shows now, right? I don't remember what they're called. Ghost Hunters and Ghost Nation.
Yeah, so I think one of them got to keep the Ghost Hunters name because they're still on Sci-Fi, I think, and then Ghost Nation, and they split up. But I think they do film it differently, but that's just the way things change over time, and now they've adapted to it is all.
Yeah. So after they're shown the footage of Evan's disappearance, Josh Gates pulls out some other picture to show them, which was of a little dark shadow that kind of blocks out a portion of the picture. I'm not even sure when this picture was taken, because it just appears in Josh Gates' evidence roll unexpectedly. So here is that picture, and the TAPS team was enthralled with this picture too. And I don't think that they were enthralled with it just because it has Sci-Fi's logo on the picture. That's just me taking a screenshot.
Don't bite the hand that feeds you, man.
Right, exactly. Oh, yes, I like this picture a lot. But it is of a strange, like a darkening on the left-hand side. For whatever reason, it's a black and white photo, and I don't know if that's because it was a trap camera picture or if they were using a night vision during the day, but it's very light out. And there is just this black smoky image that appears to the left side of the picture. Do you see it?
Yes. It would make sense for it to be one of their trap cams, though, and that's why it didn't show up until later review. Because they wouldn't have known that this had happened. Right. It's very interesting. Yes. It's another, what the hell is it? It's something that blurs out a portion of the picture. Yeah, just for no reason.
Right.
And it makes no shape, so it's not like it's a shadow of somebody like behind camera or anything like that. So,
right.
Yeah, because it's just kind of like a blob.
I'm going to go with Demogorgon since we're sticking with the Stranger Things theme.
Yeah, this could be what the aliens look like, except for they're transparent a bit. So,
all right.
That can't be good for them.
It makes them easier to, go and do things without being seen.
Sure, but I mean, I don't know. Seems kind of an empty life.
That's why they're always abducting us.
It could be.
So, as for the rest of the team's evidence, the Taps boys were quick to discredit giggling and voices, as well as the orb picture, all due to the fact that they were outdoors, and it could have been anything. I mean, I mentioned that earlier, too. But so Transylvania sounds like a lot of fun, huh? And you don't need Josh Gates to prove this to you. I did, of course, also watch Amy's Crypt 2-part documentary from her overnight at the Haunted Forest. And she really helps to put a better perspective of the overall area of the location. Her and her husband take a taxi to as far as the taxi driver will take them because the taxi driver was too scared to go any closer to the forest. And they kind of get dropped off on a dirt road with all their shit.
I think that happened to Ghost Adventures, too, because they ended up having to walk in there. And I think they, passed some houses. And people were like, are you going in there?
Yes.
You probably shouldn't.
The locals are not big fans of the forest, but they do seem to, live really close. Maybe the real estate is cheap. The same thing happened to Josh Gates. They're obviously speaking in Romanian, but they're trying to tell Josh not to go. They don't really like it over there. I don't know. But yeah, the houses line the forest. So,
well, what are you going to do? You can't necessarily move.
Right.
Just because the one that Ghost Adventures, they passed by their houses, they had protective things on their doors.
Like what?
I don't know. I'd be making stuff up, telling you it's garlic and whatnot. Can't remember completely, but I know for sure. I remember that experience. That's why I was like, I love the Romanian people. They're just like, better be safe than sorry, man. I just hang this on my door. We ain't gonna hurt anybody.
I love that idea. That's me too. That's why I have so many different protection things in my house. I'm just like, hey, I don't give whatever. But I didn't actually go back and watch the Ghost Adventures episode only because I thought I remembered it clearly and was like, they must have not spent much time in the forest because I remember them going to the castle. I remember that clearly.
I think they didn't spend a lot of time in the forest. I think they got creeped out pretty quickly and left, but I don't remember it either. So I think it was a good overall episode, but they went to other places. So yeah, okay. I mean, it definitely wasn't anybody disappearing and reappearing.
I know. That's why.
And then Amy spent the night there. I don't think Ghost Adventures manned up and stayed the whole night.
Look, I was telling my husband about this, and I'm like, this girl has some balls. And I don't know, maybe you have to be like that when you come from Australia. And my husband's like, well, yeah, when you have to fist fight tarantulas. I was like, point taken. That's why this girl is so badass. She is. So she gets out of the taxi, I guess, with her husband, and she's laughing. She's like, the taxi driver he won't go any further. He's too scared. So they walk down the street, like we were just talking about, this dirt road, and it's like lined with houses. And they just kind of walk right into the forest. But they do let you know that it's crazy to them because from everything that they've seen on TV, it seemed like it was in the middle of nowhere. The fact that they were able to get a taxi there just kind of blew their minds. They're like, we just walked right out of the city and into the forest. It's very nearby the city of Cluj, which to them they thought was pretty neat. And once they get to the forest, they do hike for about 2 hours to get to the, alleged real upside down world area, that big dead zone in the middle of the forest. It's not really in the middle of the forest, off to the side, kind of.
But in there, if it takes 2 hours to get to it.
Yeah, when you watch Destination Truth, of course, they had 4-wheelers, so it didn't take them any time at all. They're like, no. And we're here. So Amy gets in there with her husband, and their navigation kind of craps out on them. So they kind of had to just wander around until they found it too, which is kind of scary. I wouldn't want to be in a haunted forest without having navigation. They are so brave.
I can't imagine. Like, we get lost sometimes on trails, but we don't have the thick vegetation. So you can look up and see the mountain points, and that tells you where to go. But if you're in a forest where all the shit pretty much looks the same. Yeah, so, I mean, she says that at one point she saw an arrow. So that's why she's going to go in that direction. She's like, it must be pointing to where I need to go. So that's the way I'm going to go. So there are some markers throughout the woods, I guess, if you do take her path and decide to just walk it without navigation. There is a way to get there because she found it, but it is still a little scary.
But just for a second, going back to the fact that it was so wild for them to just walk right out of the city and into the forest, she points that out later on, being that it was so much closer to civilization than they thought. They mentioned that as being a possibility for all of the lights in the forest, that maybe it could be explained by seeing lights possibly coming from the city of Cluj. They do see the lights later on in their night, but they're very faint and they're off in the distance. And they're like, maybe it is because we're actually so close to the city. I don't know. I'd have to be there, I guess, to get that sensation. My eyesight isn't that good. Either the light's in the forest or it's not. And if it's not, I'm not going to be able to see it through the trees. There's no way.
That's what I'm thinking. I live in the desert where, yes, from one little corner of my yard, I can see to the city and I can see the city lights at night. But when you stand on the other corner of my yard, it's fucking dark. It's dark as dark, You
can't see shit then.
You can't. And then imagine putting a whole bunch of trees around you. You can't see through that.
No, I live, where I live. I have trees surrounding me. I open up my windows at night and I see trees. I don't see through them. And there's another apartment complex on the other side of those trees.
Yeah.
I don't see their lights.
It blocks a lot of sound that way too.
Yeah.
So, even with the houses around it, if you're deep into that woods, I don't know that you're seeing the lights from there. But fine. People could walk through the forest. Obviously, it's not closed off at night. So these could
be true.
Other investigators. Fine.
Mm-hmm. Fine.
We'll let the lights go.
Fine. I'm with you. It's tough when you do bring an outer element to it. You're out in the open and there could be other people around. The voices and the giggling, things of that nature, the lights, they could actually be not paranormal. That's fine. But I've never, ever, ever seen anybody lift straight off into the fucking night. Poof. So when you bring something like that back in, I say all the rest of it's paranormal. I don't care what your explanation is.
Exactly. Like I said, when that happened to Evan, it's like, it's all true. After that, it's like, how dare you write off those lights? Everybody's been talking about them. It's all true. There's something going on here.
I know. No, you said it right in the beginning of this episode. It happened in Romania. Oh, I believe it. And after all of this, I believe it too. So going back to Amy's crypt for a second, she also does a spirit box session in the woods. She does it in Romanian. Now, she doesn't speak fluent Romanian, so she has an app with a couple of things already spelled out for her, like, hello, can you talk to me? So she's got it translated for her. So she speaks in Romanian, and she gets back replies on the spirit box that are in English, but with a thick accent. And I don't know any Romanian speakers, but it sounds like it's someone speaking English with a Romanian accent coming through the spirit box. And she also gets some replies in another language. Again, I don't know Romanian. That could be a Romanian reply. It is so fucking cool. And it kind of reinvigorated my interest in the spirit box. Because when you do it so often and you get a hi or just a one name, something, you still question, okay, is it really replying to me? Am I just catching a channel every now and then? But this woman is in the forest and she's getting responses that sound like it's in a thick accent, or she's getting responses that sound like they're in another language. And to me, it's like, oh my God, that's so cool. I want to get another language response, please.
But so their local radio would be in their own language. But from the Ghost Adventures episode, and it sounds kind of like Josh Gates had the same issue, it was kind of tough to get a translator. It's not like people around there speak a lot of English. They had to actually invest in bringing a translator with them to get around. So I doubt their radio station has anything like that. So where you might write off the foreign
Romanian.
You might write that off. Okay, it could be a radio for all we know. We don't know what they're saying. It could be like, we have used cars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No,
true.
She might have told you what it said. I don't know yet. But then the voice speaking in English, that's something different because it's a vampire. Sorry.
It is a vampire. It was blood. I know it. It was awesome. And actually, Josh Gates' translator, to me, she's so funny on the show because she doesn't really seem to be interested in Josh Gates' typical shit. She's just kind of like, standing there smiling politely, listening to what he's freaking out about. And she speaks in Romanian. She goes to give him the response. And then Josh Gates kind of freaks out. And she's like, yeah, don't go in. Duh. Like, why is that so funny to you, sir?
She's like, it's not a joke around here.
Not a joke. Right, exactly. So Amy's Crypt is fantastic as always to watch. It's not one of those overly edited or massively produced types of shows, which you can get on the Travel Channel. It's just her and her husband and their cell phones and just some basic ghost hunter type equipment, like the regular stuff. And I don't know, I haven't seen any of the newer episodes, so I don't know if she's invested more and has gotten any of the crazier echo boxes or anything like that. But when she's out in the forest, just her cell phones and a spirit box and a recorder, just to me, they're very down to earth people just going out in the woods looking for something. And so I really love watching her show. It's so different. It's kind of like how we talked about Rob Riggle's quest for whatever Indiana Jones ripoff, whatever that one's called. He's so funny, but it's such a fresh look at these historic places because you go and you watch these shows all day long and you love them because they're history, they're exciting, they're finding treasure sometimes, but they're not adding any entertaining value to it. Or if they are, they're not as silly as Rob Riggles is. So it just kind of brings back a more human element when you see something like this. If you're constantly watching like Ghost Adventures or Ghost Hunters or Ghost Nation, they're very serious now about their paranormal investigation, or even Kindred Spirits. They want to come in, document, hit the place hard and bring back hard evidence. But when you watch something like Amy's Crypt, she's not doing anything to not bring you hard evidence. It's just that she's doing it as more of like a normal human being, in my opinion.
She's very relatable.
Yeah.
And then the show is produced very well. It is a show format on, YouTube and free for you to watch.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, like, what a service she's doing for everyone, because she goes to the coolest fucking locations and she's so hardcore about it.
Yeah.
But it is such a relatable experience that she's having. At the end of it, you almost are like, I could do it if I was an Australian woman, I guess.
I know, right?
And
yeah.
the balls that she does. No, her show is really, really good. Yeah.
It is really good. I like her a lot. So if you haven't seen her yet, go and check her out on YouTube. Like Wendy just said, she's there, she's free, and she's amazing. The episode that I was telling you about of hers, where she goes into the haunted forest, is called Overnight in the World's Most Haunted Forest, Hoia Baciu Forest. And there's a part 1 and part 2, and this was apparently 2018 when she did it for Halloween. So there's a really cute part in it where her and her husband have to eat different types of chocolates, which is also another thing that, ghost shows should just do that from now on, wherever you go. Just eat different types of chocolate. Loved it. So that's it. If you have made it to the haunted forest and are able to recall what happened to you there, please, please, please write to us, because that would be awesome. And I'm dying to hear more about this location. And we can also share your story on the podcast if you would like, or we can just be pen pals. It's cool, whatever. Our email is creaturesofthenightparanormal@gmail.com. All of the pictures that I shared with Wendy on the show tonight, including a few more, will be shared throughout the week on Instagram and Facebook. So be sure to check us out there. That you can find us on Instagram is COTN_paranormal. And on Facebook and Twitter, it's COTN Paranormal. And as always, please rate and review, subscribe to the podcast. And if you want some cool swag, you can always visit our shop. We've got t-shirts, we've got spirit boards, candles, bath bombs, you name it, we've got it. Okay, maybe not if you don't name it. If you find something else out there in the world that you want us to procure, then write to us. I already gave you all those email addresses and whatever. So
yeah,
anyways.
I totally love the idea of becoming pen pal with somebody as well. I mean, that's such a thing that we did remember when you were in school and they made you like write someone from another country or something to get a pen pal. We wrote to a Russian teacher one time when I was in like second grade. And I remember she wrote back about how they had to stand in line for like goods and everything. I mean, that's pretty insane.
That's like what we have to do now for the virus.
Almost. No, not at all. We're very privileged. That's an asshole comment. But I do really like the idea of pen paling with people. So please communicate with us, because we really enjoy that, hearing from other people and what experiences they have, and then just whatever bullshit you want to talk about. But that story was amazing. I loved every bit of it, as you knew that I would.
Yeah, I knew you would.
I know it's not vampire stories or anything like that, but I had heard of this forest before, of course. Sorry, I just hit puberty or something.
Right here on the show.
Glad you were all here to witness it.
If you come back with a deeper voice, though, that would be funny. And goodbye.
The transition is finally taking place. Anyways, I know it's not vampires, but of course I've heard of this forest before. I love legends.
Yeah.
You know, they don't just spring up out of nowhere in my mind when so many people share the same ideas. It's coming from something that most people, you know, that are so scientific and smart, and they think there's got to be a logical explanation for it. And my daydreamer mind is like, but why?
Yeah.
How are you going to explain everybody saying these same accounts that repeatedly happen?
You know, and in this situation, you don't necessarily need the people to explain it. You walk in and the fucking trees are growing in weird patterns. I mean, the scientists can't explain that. And why are trees doing that?
If they
Stop it,
can't
trees.
explain it, that's weird. I mean, like, it's a growth pattern of a plant and you can't figure it out. Like, I can't figure it out. That's fine because I don't have that education. But you do, and you're still like, well, I don't know. Well, then when somebody thinks they see a flying saucer over the thing, damn it, there's fucking aliens there. And that's why those trees are growing that way.
Yes,
their ships
they
made
are.
it happen. Whatever exhaust they put on it, or they came and plant their giant Cabbage Patch face asses on these plants and made chairs. I don't know. You'd have to see the way the trees bend to understand why they might be a chair. Anyways.
True. They do look like chairs.
They could. Like some giant sat down on it.
That's what it looks like. Something just boom, like pushed down on it. Like the alien spaceship was just going to land for a second. It was like, nope, gotta go. And then it just took off.
Never mind. I found out there was a clearing right over there.
Right over there. There it is. All those invisible sheep have been doing their jobs.
Good job, sheeps. No, I love this. I could eat this stuff up all day. And then the fact that like true investigators went out there and documented some kind of evidence is just phenomenal.
Yes, I loved it. I really didn't want to do a whole story based on a TV show, but I had to come back and revisit this because I was confused on a previous episode, and it was such a good story that you all had to know about it. So I'll definitely link the episode to Destination Truth so that you can see it, and hopefully you'll get as much entertainment value out of it as I did. I mean, fucking, it blew my mind, as it did the Ghost Hunters, but, you know, it didn't really take much to blow their minds back in the day.
What was it, like hangers flying one time?
Yeah.
But they didn't show it to anybody.
Show it. It was like, who's throwing hangers?
Wow, do you see that?
Oh, that's the best one.
Yeah, of course their minds were blown. Anyways, I love the story. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, that's it, I guess, right?
That's it. That's all I got for you. So thank you so much for listening. And goodbye.
Bye.